Hey guys, how are you? I hope you're all doing very well. This afternoon I'm going to be doing a review of an action film from Australia, English language, released in the year 2015, directed by George Miller, and this film is called Mad Max Fury Road. So if you're not familiar with the Mad Max mythology, these were movies that were made in the 80s. There was a trilogy of them, and Max Rockatansky is the main character of these films. So it's set in a barren landscape. It's a post-apocalyptic world where there is lawlessness. Basically, the highways are overtaken by bandits, and everybody is out looking for gasoline. Gasoline is the main source of income. So if you've got gasoline, you're going to be a rich sort of person. So they're fighting each other over this, and this is basically the world it's set in. So in Mad Max Fury Road, you've got Mad Max, who has been captured by these very strange people led by Immortan Joe. Now Immortan Joe is this godlike figure, very strange individual, and he runs things almost like God. Everyone treats him like a religious figure, and they all want to please him. If they don't please him, then they're scared of him. So he rules with an iron fist, and he has some property that is being delivered inside a truck driven by a character named Furiosa. So Furiosa, she's going out looking for gasoline. She's driving this truck, and then all of a sudden it takes a detour. It goes off the road, and Immortan Joe believes that his property that is being harboured inside this truck, Furiosa is trying to steal. So he's absolutely furious with this. He goes into his, really, it's a car, but it's done up in a great way. And he goes and he pursues this car, and all of his henchmen do as well. So basically what the movie is a massive car chase. So Max is along for the ride. He ends up teaming up with Furiosa, and whether or not they can both get to the destination thereafter without being caught is something you're going to have to find out for yourself, because that's as far as I'm going with my synopsis. Now my thoughts on Mad Max Fury Road. If you've grown up with Mad Max, the Mad Max trilogy, you've got Mad Max Road Warrior, Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. Now I love those movies. Mad Max 2 is my favourite movie of all time. I think it's one of the best action movies of all time. And so the fact that this is 20 years later, I was really excited about it, because Max Rockatansky is a great character. Mel Gibson played him in the original trilogies. I think it was just a great character, especially in Mad Max 1. That's the mythology of the character. That's how he came about. And I just thought that story was tragic, and at the same time gave you a strong sense of satisfaction, because when he starts to go on this vigilante rampage, you're really behind him. You want him to do what he's doing. And he's kind of like an anti-hero, because he's doing things that are not right. But because of the situation he's facing, it's basically he has to do it because everyone else is doing it. So there's no room for a completely nice guy. So Max Rockatansky, on one side you've got really good-natured Max, and then on the other hand you've got sort of a psychotic Max. And that's what makes the character so good, and that's what made the trilogy so good, in that Mad Max 1 sets it up with the mythology. Mad Max 2 just kicks it into gear with a magnificent action sequence of a car chase right at the end. And then Thunderdome wasn't as good, but it was still different. So it felt like all three of these movies were a little bit different from the other, but it still harboured that same Max Rockatansky, the character. He is what kept the trilogy glued together. So coming into Mad Max Fury Road, apparently they were going to get Mel Gibson to do it, but the studios didn't want it. They thought it would have been bad for the marketing of the film, which is a disappointment, but I had belief that Tom Hardy would do a good job. But I was hoping that the movie would be about Max Rockatansky. But unfortunately for Fury Road, it wasn't. It was all about Charlize Theron's character, Furiosa. She's a very good character, but you can't have Mad Max without focusing on Max Rockatansky. And unfortunately, the movie focuses on all the wrong things in this one, and that to me was the biggest disappointment. Now I will say the action is absolutely unbelievable. I thought some of the sequences were really well done, but unfortunately it's basically all about the action. The story is very thin. The characters, Max Rockatansky, he mumbles when he's talking. He almost has an animalistic quality, and he's not the centre point of the film, so you don't see him as much as I wanted to, because as I said, that character of Max Rockatansky, he holds the original films together. But in this movie, he feels like he's taking a back seat to Charlize Theron's character. Now, don't get me wrong, as I said, Charlize Theron does a great job as Furiosa, and the whole film has that Mad Max vibe to it, where it's craziness. These people are dressed up in outrageous sort of clothing. Immortan Joe is an absolutely fantastic villain. He's the same guy who played the villain in Mad Max, the original. He's got this big mask on, and it actually felt like a Mad Max universe, where everyone was just desperate, and everyone was willing to do anything to impress, their lord. And it's so everything, the recipe was there for a good Mad Max movie, but unfortunately I just thought that the characters took a backseat, the story took a backseat, and it was just impressing people with the effects, and the effects are absolutely fantastic. But after a while you think to yourself, I want to know more about Max. I want to know why he, when he was captured, could have gone into a little bit of a backstory there. And I know a lot of people say that they don't want slow burning films, that they want action splashed over everywhere. But yeah, unfortunately for me, I thought it would have been better if it just calmed down a little bit. It was a little bit overkill. It felt like a movie that was directed by a kid with ADHD, attention deficit disorder. And it just felt like he had too much Red Bull and he was just bang, 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 just throwing craziness after craziness onto the screen, and he was basically neglecting the things that made the first 3 films so good. And so George Miller has created a very good movie, but to say that this is the best action movie of the last few decades, as some YouTubers have said, I think that's going a little bit overboard. I thought that, yeah, the explosions are good, the car chases are good, the Mad Max world is there, but the mythology really wasn't there. And for me, being a Mad Max fanatic, I wanted a little bit more. But having said that, if you're not familiar with the Mad Max trilogy 20 years ago, maybe you'll get a lot out of this. Maybe it won't bother you because I know a lot of people appreciate the fact that this movie gets straight into it, balls to the wall very, very quickly. But for me, I wanted more, and unfortunately I just felt like it was missing something. And so it's not the best action movie ever made. I actually think this is not as good as The Raid 1 and 2. I think they are superior films. But having said that, it is not a bad movie, and I'm glad that I went to the cinema and saw it. So overall, for Mad Max Fury Road, I'm going to give it 3.5 stars. Coming recommended, but unfortunately not as good as a lot of people will say it is, in my opinion. So if you want to disagree with me, please feel free to leave a comment. So hopefully you enjoyed this review. Until next time, keep watching movies, and I'll see you later.